My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are a part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day, and don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
So we're going to go ahead and start. I will call this meeting of the Board Finance and Operations Committee to order. The committee would like to welcome the audience. Viewers may watch live board committee meetings online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. The committee has set aside this time for public comment. Julie?
We have no public comment.
No public comment. So we will move on to procedural items, which is the approval of the draft committee meetings from the prior meeting. Any changes to those minutes? Nope. Hearing no changes, those will remain as posted, and we will move on to the next item, which is the 2% grant allocation from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians.
Yeah, so excited to be able to announce in appreciation a grant for 2% award from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. We actually got 3 grants actually in the end total. So there was one that was slipped in that was a very small one I'll talk about in a second. But both myself and Katie Kubish, as well as Ginger Smith, had the opportunity to go to the ceremony at Grand Traverse Resort. It was really nice, really good cookies, and I had the chance to be able to go and explain to the group what the money would be used for. Really a powerful opportunity here of all the organizations and what the 2% money funds. So we were excited this time. There's 2 cycles. So in this cycle, we received $18,000 to help support the School Support Network for a year-round programming. So they want to be able to do things in the summer. You might remember we do things like the Sunshine Bus and some of those kind of things, really trying to help fund that so that we have opportunities to get kids materials, everything from food, clothing still in the summertime. We do not have like a courier for the SSN that does that, so this gives an opportunity to help support that. As well as $3,565.10 for a new parent engagement program that we put in, just trying to really talk to parents about what are some things they can do to help their child, and especially in crisis and those things. So I'm excited. That's a new program we haven't done, so we're excited to be able to do that. As well as we received a small, I believe it was $600 grant at Long Lake Elementary for the media center. That was directly applied actually, which was a little bit of a snafu, but we'll take it. But again, just really appreciate the support of the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians for the programs that we're doing, and we'll make sure that money goes to the good use that it's intended.
Great,
Excellent,
thank you.
Any other comments? Obviously, appreciate the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. So if there are no objections, we will move that item to the full board. Is it just a consent item?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to bid services and purchases. The first item is food service equipment. Deferring to Christine.
So I had mentioned at a previous board finance meeting that we have a restriction on our food service fund balance. It's 3 months operating expenses, and fortunate to have free breakfast and lunch in all the buildings, but that did affect our fund balance, and so we have the opportunity to purchase some equipment throughout the district, much needed equipment for different kitchens. So in front of you is a list of what's going to be purchased and installed. Any specific questions on any of the details of the equipment? Tom's here to answer those questions. Many of these, he met with his staff to kind of go through priorities and what was needed. We were pretty close to having a walk-in cooler freezer.
Walk-in freezer.
In every building, correct?
Yep, the Traverse City High School will be the last one.
Yeah, so that'll be nice.
I know sometimes there's grant opportunities from like the Department of Agriculture and other things like that. Is that something we looked into for any of these?
We did use that for some steamers earlier in the year, and it only comes out once a year, so we will be applying again for other equipment. We always have equipment needs, so.
Yeah, I knew we had used it earlier in the year, so I wasn't sure.
And we were fortunate earlier in the year. I think we asked for approval of $60,000 or $80,000, and we didn't spend all of that because he got more grant money than he had originally applied for because other districts didn't take it. So we didn't even spend all that we were thinking we would have to spend out of our own funds. So we were fortunate. Tom's pretty up on applying for grants and taking money others aren't interested in. So every opportunity we get, he's after it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger, any comments?
No,
on
I'm good.
questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, I obviously, excited that the food program for breakfast and lunch was extended, I think, right? It's not in the final budget yet, right?
Well, I mean, for next year, we
Like
just do it, it's in the governor's
Yeah.
executive recommendation, so.
But,
I'll be shocked if it's not.
right. Excellent. So hearing no objections, I propose we move this to the full board agenda under consent.
I agree.
Great. Moving on to technology. This one will defer to Winnie Bell.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today, we're bringing to you our annual purchase of Chromebooks for 6th and 9th grade students. These students will use these Chromebooks for the entirety of their middle school or high school career, and then after that, they will go into the secondary use throughout the district for the remainder of their useful life. And we got bids from a couple vendors and chose the lowest vendor this year, which was People Driven. And we would like to purchase from them. We are continuing with the Dell 3110 model, and which allows us to to maintain our self-maintainer status, which allows our student programs to teach our students with our SSTs to repair the Chromebooks, and many of which have gone on into, continuing careers in IT, and also make that a viable thing for the students to use. And so we would like to request $740,490, which does include a 5% contingency.
And this does include the white glove service, correct? So they
Yes.
do all of the asset tagging, setting it up on our system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cleaning the console for us, so we get them delivered and they're pretty much ready to go.
Yep, then
have
we
to
just break them
distribute.
up by the schools and assign them to the students.
This is an annual purchase. Any
Yes.
changes from any previous years, or is this pretty much standard?
No, pretty standard on this one, so I'm excited. Costs actually came a little bit down on these from a couple of previous years, so that was great.
Is that just based on the fact that we're making a large purchase, so they can give us a little bit better price than?
That helps, and just in general, we had made this price and had budgeted a little bit more, anticipating kind of a raise, and didn't see it. So we were just excited to see that it kind of stayed steady, if not dropped a little bit.
Yeah, we actually saw a decrease in the price of the units this year. So,
And do we have experience with people-driven technology?
Yes,
we do. We
Okay.
use them for a lot of our network stuff.
they've been a big partner in, like, as Wendy said, just a lot of our infrastructure network stuff, and now they've added Chromebooks to there, and so we are excited to see that that's an opportunity for them to put their hat in the ring.
Yeah, they were awarded one of the Chromebook options on the SAVE bid last year, and they've applied again for this upcoming year.
Which is the statewide purchasing safe bid, so that you can, like consortium the state
Consortium.
has.
Thank you. Same, like, guarantees too,
Yep,
right?
4-year accidental warranty.
Okay, wonderful.
These are coming with the hard clamshell cases like we got last year, which we have seen a decrease in catastrophic repairs, especially at the middle school level. So we decided to go with that again this year. And it's not a separate case, so it stays on, so.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Hearing no objections, I would also propose we move this to the full board agenda under consent.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, moving on to the next item, which is tablets for buses. Back to Christine.
Yeah, so I'll give an overview, and if you have any questions about the system or how it works, Tyson Birch is here. This is a little bit of a combination. We have purchased tablets with school buses we've purchased. So the next purchase was over the bid threshold, so I thought it best to show you everything we've purchased, so we're getting approval for the total amount, even though the other ones didn't meet the threshold. So some of this has already been purchased, but we're asking for the total to be approved, $67,000. We're right now looking to purchase 33 tablets and 2 card readers. We're trying to get the tablets universally across all of the buses so that we can move forward with using the scan-on, scan-off system, which is working well. A few of our elementaries are done. We're asking for this out of the Transportation Capital Bond Fund, but also General Fund. The subscriptions that are coming with the tablets cannot be charged to bond. That has to be charged to General Fund, and that comes out of Tyson's budget.
So what's the breakdown of that comes out of the general fund? Do you know?
Ugh.
Well, the tablets are the 38,285, so the rest of it would be the subscription,
Okay.
so the cell
About
service.
29,000?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's an annual subscription?
Yes. Just a cell phone coverage so that we get GPS on all the buses.
Okay.
And then it's real-time data when the students sign on and sign off. It's real-time data that we have back at the shop.
Yeah, so I'm curious, so in the past, would the kids just show their badge getting on a bus, and now they're
This is
And
the
like
reason.
scanning
So
it?
this is like a huge improvement for our district as it relates to safety. In the past, we never knew who was getting on our bus. They didn't have any tags. And so We can describe situations where in the office, dispatch would call a driver and basically a sub-driver say, hey, do you know if Johnny Smith's on the bus? He's got curly red hair and probably got off at this stop. And the sub's like, I don't know who you're talking about. Well, the system, now they don't even have to call the bus driver. They can look on the system and see if Johnny's scanned on or off. And they know whether he's still on the bus, never got on the bus, or already got off at a stop, and if it was the correct stop.
Yeah.
So
So-
I will tell you at the beginning of the year is our transportation's worst fear, like the first couple days of kindergartner, doesn't show up at home. Did they get on the bus? Did they get on the wrong bus? Which bus? So to have this system, and we've got some work to do a little bit with photos, and we're gonna try and maybe do some summer things. Most of our kids have their ID from the previous year that they could start with, but especially our kindergartners, they don't. So we're talking already about like with kindergarten, roundup and like their back to school night ahead of time, some things like that. There's some things we might be able to do, like with photos, and be able to get an ID so they have that day one when they can get in and off the bus. That's our goal, but we've got some logistics work to do to try
And
do that.
we are testing that. I know at Eastern, they're testing this already. I'm thinking a
Yeah,
couple other
it's
elementaries.
working well at Eastern.
Yes, we have 4 schools we're doing it at, and that would be Traverse Heights, Blair, Silver Lake, and Eastern.
So it'll be pretty neat to be able to just go, Jimmy Smith's on bus 19, so.
And the system will alert too if they're on the wrong bus or if they're trying to get off at the wrong stop instead of trying to figure, it's a sub-driver, it's really, really hard, you don't know the kids. We've had bus tags for them before that just says where their stop is, located and what bus they're supposed to be on,
Yeah.
but it didn't have a picture.
Yeah.
So it was difficult. And then we also did have on the old tags just acknowledgement if they were a preschool or kindergarten student, so the driver knew that they should have an adult greeting the student. But it wasn't a perfect system. I will say that also for subs and alternate drivers, this is a big benefit. When you're driving a route with a piece of paper in one hand and hoping your thumb is hitting where you're at versus the system talks to the drivers, correct?
Yes.
It'll talk to the drivers. And the biggest thing is when you don't have a student on, high school routes are really, really long, but you only make half the stops depending on who's on. Well, the system will reroute based on who's not on versus the driver trying to figure out, how do I get to the next stop without doing the next 4? So it's much more efficient.
Right.
It's a neat system.
Yeah. So like, just to kind of show the audience, so like this bar scan would be scanned by the driver when the kid gets on
Yep.
the bus.
We actually have the students do it, which I think some of them really enjoy that process, but
Has there been any experience with like slowing down the speed of commerce, just get unloading to the bus and then having
there's a
to add
process.
time?
Yes, ma'am. There's definitely some learning that's going on, and we're getting better at it. Yes. And it actually, the students' cards don't have the bar on them.
Okay.
Because it's the RFID that they're doing, the electronic.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And that's how the system is built. We didn't change that.
Just like our poop.
Yeah, yeah.
But you'll have students that forget the card, and the driver can manually add them to the bus. But it's all a learning process, and new technology is difficult for some, and we're working through that process. And we've even talked just as of yesterday about maybe some other options for trying a couple things differently. But I've talked to a couple of bus drivers who absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So I think it is a benefit. We just need to get it systematized and more standardized so that we have everybody trained.
So how and when do the kids get trained? Is it during advisory for middle school students?
Well, we do have a video that shows where you're supposed to scan it on the bus. Our 2 managers made a little video, which we currently show to the elementaries. And I assume for the high school and middle school, we'll probably make a different video because the elementary kids or students, theirs is attached to their backpack, which a lot of the high schoolers and middle schoolers don't carry a backpack, so.
And then also, if a kid is going home with another kid after school and the parent calls in and gives that permission, that's something you can manually adjust from day to day?
We absolutely can, back
Okay.
at transportation. We can, otherwise, if we don't do it, it'll red flag the students as they do not belong on that bus, which is the big safety when it comes to high schooler and middle schoolers.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
I'm good with moving this to the full board under consent, but I think maybe it's a pretty cool school safety thing. So maybe if you want to mention it during your superintendent update.
I can do that, or when you do the report out for this, I can chime in from that
Okay.
standpoint too.
Yeah, either. I just think it's great
Yeah.
information for
Yeah.
safety.
Because I plan on doing the 2% during my superintendent.
Okay.
So if we can do this during the update
Yeah.
of this, and I'll chime in if there's anything to add.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to informational items, our capital project update. Paul?
Hey, good morning. We're going to start out at the bus wash today, transportation. As you can see, that's the
You
entry
had to
on
have
one side.
taken those yesterday.
Or 2
Had
weeks
to
in.
have taken those yesterday.
I
Not
did.
a day before, that's for sure.
I try to get the freshest look at the
There you go.
projects. So, yeah, so this is one of those entry sides, this the north side of it, and it's all prepped and ready for the snow melt system to go in. And we're kind of tempering this because they started the frost laws on the roads now. So we got to balance this out with getting concrete to the site. So, but they're all ready for that. The final electrical and plumbing connections are being made in there, and next week is a punch list for the project.
When should we be able to wash buses? Because
Yeah,
some
as
of
soon
them
as
are looking a
the
little.
concrete goes in, that's what we're playing with, is when that concrete goes in. So this is the IMC over at Central High. The water main and sewer lines have been relocated. All the permits were taken care of with Eagle. And that footings and foundations start next week, and there's a lot of demolition work that's been done, prepping for interior footings. We're adding footing under these columns because of the building being built right adjacent to the existing structure. So there's a lot of demo work that's gone on over here.
So those are those classrooms.
Yep.
that You see the plywood on right there that will be incorporated into.
These are the existing classrooms that were demoed out. This is the inside corridor with the construction separation there, fire taped in pink. And then that's the back side of it. All the lockers have been taken out. The walls are starting to come down. Clearing that out. They're in demolition mode over there right now.
Paul, were there any surprises in terms of sewer lines?
No.
Or the, okay.
Well, we found a couple of manholes that weren't documented, that were buried
Right.
over there. But other than
Nothing
that,
major that would have big
No.
cost implications?
no burial grounds, no cemeteries,
No pot of gold?
Yeah.
no pot of gold. So, and then over at West Senior High, footings and foundations are done. They're backfilling. This is obviously the day before the snow. This is the day after. This is yesterday. So what a difference a day makes, huh? But like I said, footings and foundations are complete. They're backfilling. Masonry starts next week. And then the masons are going to work up against the building, and then they'll work their way around the perimeter, and then steel will follow shortly behind them. And it'll start coming up out of the ground.
It's neat now, because if you go into the classrooms, you can see all the rooms, from the footings. You can see now what the outline of the Innovation Center looks like.
And you should be able to tell a little bit from that.
Yeah.
You can see where the concrete is. And over at Saban, at the print shop, they are in full-on demo mode, taking out the interior partitions, the walls, the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, getting prepped for building back in. They'll have masons on site next week as well, cutting out some openings in some of the existing walls and getting spaces ready. They are in full-on demo mode over there. And we made it through voting.
Oh, through what?
Voting.
Voting.
Oh.
There's a polling place, a polling location.
Interesting, okay. Going back to the previous room, that's the main room, right?
It is.
That's the old cafeteria?
Yeah, it used to be a gym at one time, and then it was a cafeteria, and now it's going to be the main print shop.
Yeah, look at those nice high ceilings.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, are you planning to drop the ceiling and put in different lights, or?
Different lighting, but the ceiling's going to remain open.
So I just want to take a moment to apologize for being late. I misread the time on the on the invite, but I also want to give a little point of education right here. We made a joke just recently to burial grounds, and usually those are related to my people. And so that actually, when I heard that joke and everybody laugh, it actually kind of sent a little stab into my heart.
Sorry.
So I know it wasn't intended, but it's a point of education that as educators that we need to know about. You wouldn't know unless I said something. And obviously, I know there's no ill will in that comment at all, or the laughter, because it's something we're all used to. But I just wanted to bring that up.
That's it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Exciting to see those STEM labs coming along.
No, it's, the weather's cooperated. I mean, that's the beauty of, well, snow, you know, one snow day, you know, but having, the weather is, you know, I was really nervous, like getting those forms and the concrete and all that in, and the weather has cooperated, and so, because there was one point, we had all the blankets down over at Central High School to keep the ground warm.
They're still
you
down.
know. Yeah, just trying to do, but the weather's cooperated a ton to be able to do that, so it's been good.
All right, any other questions for Paul? If not, we will move on to finance update.
I don't really have much. I don't know, John, if you have any more of an update. We've had the governor's proposal for some bit. I don't know if you've heard. I thought maybe we might be seeing something from the Senate in March, but.
Not yet. You know, the only word that I'm hearing, two things, that the governor's proposal for universal preschool and for community college is definitely contentious. Because what they're doing is when Governor Snyder was in office, he was really adamant in the legislature on making sure to pay forward and pay the true amount needed for the legacy costs of retirement, health care for retirees to be brought up to level of actually paying it to try and have it be fully funded by like 2032, I think. So they've been underfunded compared to what they need to be. Well, the healthcare has now reached that point where it's on track at 100% funded. Retirement, not quite, it's at like 67%. Well, because they've reached that mark with healthcare, the state budget office said, well, we could actually pay $650 million less this year into the system, take that back and use it as a one-time fund for 1 year, be able to pay for all the community college and all of the universal preschool. Well, some people don't think the math adds up, especially with inflationary increases an element, to take that, including right now, I think that our teachers union is getting nervous, the MEA and the AFT. And so there's a real debate in Lansing of doing that, plus the fact that you're going to start all these programs and then in another year, you don't have that one-time money. How do you find the $650 million again? And so I think that's a real debate, even, you know, on the Dem side, there's a lot of skepticism on that I think is gonna be really interesting how that plays out. And the other thing is that the Senate is at full membership, so they're going through their budget and their committees and El Paso budget. The House, you might remember, is tied, Republican and Democrat, until two seats are filled, which will not happen until late April, early May, based upon a special election that had to happen in the final election. But what we're hearing is that the House is going to go through the committee process. They may not actually report their actual committee report to the floor, but we'll at least be able to see what it looks like to have the governor, the Senate, and the House, at least committee report, to be able to make our educated guess by our July 1 mandate for a budget that, you know, normally we would have a passed House version and even start to get into conference committee at that point. So I think we're gonna be a little delayed to maybe not hear the grumblings of conference committee and have to do it with a little bit less information. But I was nervous we weren't even going to have a House version to be able to base it off of. But when I was in Lansing last week, they did say that the House is planning on going through their committees, so that's kind of I think that our advocacy group we work with of the Northern Michigan Legislative Services, they feel that the foundation will get bumped up in an election year. They think there are some categoricals and such there that won't make it in the final cut, that there will be some folks who really push for the foundation to be bumped up a little bit more. But, you know, time will tell from that standpoint.
In terms of those categoricals, would that include the rural bus?
That one is, it's solid for this year. But what we're a little nervous about is, what was done with that is they took and made a 2-year pot of money, and put it into what they called the Transportation Fund at Treasury. And what we were hoping is that there would be another payment from new funds into that for 125 million, and so that we would always have 2 years pot of money. Well, they didn't. In the governor's budget, they're taking 125 out of that fund, which they already used 125 last year, and so it basically zeroes out. Then for next year, if there's no revenue, there's no categorical. So we have really tried to say, pre-fund that a year, and then if we know it's gonna have to go away, at least we have a year to adjust. But we're really trying hard as a group that benefits from that to really push for another deposit to be made in that fund this year. And that'll be part of the battle that we try and fight.
You're saying we're safe for 2024,
Correct.
2025 school year? It's
Correct.
the 25, 26
That is correct.
uncertain.
That is
Okay.
correct. You know, when you're just, it's so hard to do any long-term, you know, budgeting anyway, but at least, you know, when you know, we really loved the idea of the pot of money being created, because it did that. But then when you don't add to it to keep that, you know, is a nerve-wracking thing, because it's a decent chunk, you know. We don't know exactly final allocations for this year even yet, but it's in the neighborhood of $2 million. You know, so that's to just all of a sudden in a year to year not have that, you know, that's huge. So that'll be the one thing that in Lansing, that as a group, I'll be, you know, knocking on the door saying, please try and allocate, you know, what you have, another 125 million into that fund.
I'm curious, because I know there's a delay on knowing what it is due to the absences, the 2 positions that were not filled yet.
Yeah.
Did they get filled already?
So there was a special election and it was a primary.
Okay.
So you have 2 Dems and 2 Republicans that were, you know, nominated for each of the, you know, one for each seat.
Yeah.
And so you'll go through a general that happens, you know, in April, that it's a special election. But they're very strong Democratic held seats. So it's a bit of a formality. I mean, if, you know, I never want to say voting is a formality, but to an extent, it's heavily favored to go Democrat. But they just can't be seated until that happens.
So when is it that you usually know about the budget? Is it usually?
Normally, May,
it's
you know,
weird.
they generally, the 1st of May,
Okay.
you know, will have their committees from that standpoint. And then what happens is that you have end of May, beginning of June, you know, they like to have the budget done before 4th of July.
Right.
And so they actually have tried to say that they force themselves, even though it doesn't have any penalty. And so we generally have that month of May, especially in the beginning there of June, because at the June board meeting, we have to approve that budget. And so we normally have that where they're talking amongst themselves and we get details. We talk to the chairs, what are you negotiating, where you kind of landing, where do you think it's gonna be? And with the House maybe not even being able to do anything with conference committee until mid-May, probably, you know, because they're gonna have to pass their budget even those first couple weeks of May. And that, you know, before the trade can even begin. And so it's gonna be fast and furious from when they take their seats to getting a budget, try and get it done before July 1. That's all they're gonna do, you know, from that point. So we're probably 2 to 3 weeks in the hole here, if I could kind of, you know, say that of how we're gonna be behind in trying to make this guess of where it's gonna go.
So like, we should be sending veggie and pizza to the accounting department in May for
Right.
their late nights on
Right.
this. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
You know, and it's just a matter of what, you know, it's a negotiation deal process between the governor, Senate, and the House.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer that's just delayed, the longer those conversation and the leaks out that you get to try and hedge your bet on where everything lands is where it's at, so.
And I would say this year, I don't know if anybody noticed in the calendar, we're actually approving the budget 2 weeks earlier in June. So we've been really struggling with the townships being upset waiting so long for us to put in our tax levies. So we've agreed to move it up. So even if we get a budget late May, we may have already printed all of our documents, because that takes time, and we go through finance first, so even if we get information in May, it may be too late to incorporate it, but we never have it 100% anyway, and we always have to do an amendment in January and February, so we use the best information we have. But I just want to make sure if we get different information, it might not be incorporated in the actual budget, and it's just the delay of going to committee, then going to the board, and be able to process all that information into our booklets.
Nice explanation. Maybe that'll encourage some of our kids to go into those fields. Run for
I
the
don't know.
legislature,
Or
kids.
dissuade them.
Or dissuade them, yeah, I
Right.
don't know. It's, like I say, it's so hard. It's so hard to, to see. This one's gonna be, I think I say this every year, but this is going to be a tough one to grasp because the federal money of ESSER, has gone from the legislature. And so now they're just down to the realities of what the actual state revenues are generating. And then you have the piece of, still of the lagging federal dollars being spent that are generating sales tax revenue, does that lag now in next year? And that's the part that you have to kind of put from a stability and a structural standpoint to really grapple with. And that's why the governor's doing this shift, of money out now, where a year ago it was like, oh, plenty of money for fund everything. And there's gonna be some hard conversations on what gets funded and what doesn't, based on a priority and what holds up as far as state revenues.
So kids, keep on your math.
There you
your
go.
Economics
And social studies.
and social studies.
Go.
All right, any other comments for the committee?
John, did you want to bring up calendar?
Yeah, so I've updated the board in my update last week, but just for the community as a whole, we have an agreement with the TCEA on the calendar that you saw. There's no changes from what you had before. And so we are going to begin to send that out. I just wanted to get it out committee week here to everybody just to look at from that standpoint. And we are planning next week a communication out. We're early, we have this plenty of time as people are making their spring break plans this year, and maybe they go to the same place, a campground or wherever that may be, that if they can book it a year in advance, that we've got our calendar out. So we're excited about that, and we're already starting to have conversations about some of the things that are new of starting to plan and what that looks like, and just beginning those conversations so that we can be ahead of the game, for next year's calendar.
And just as a reminder, we do have to add 1 minute to the school day, which I think we're going to add to the morning. So we'll make sure to include that in the communication.
1 minute earlier to start? Yeah, okay. It's gonna be weird, like 7:59 versus 8 o'clock.
I think that, doesn't the
Some are
bell
already weird.
rings at like 8:03 or 8:05 or something?
It's different throughout all the
Yeah.
buildings. We just need to make sure if we add morning or afternoon that we're doing it across the board the same for transportation purposes.
I just wanted to point out something that escaped my attention before, but because I am a planner, I notice the winter break is a full 2 weeks. Families are going to be ecstatic about this. Yeah, we've never had a full 2 weeks, plus the weekends bookending. So that is also a fantastic development here for next year.
Depending. So sometimes, if sisters fight and stuff like that, you're like, when are they going back to school?
Oh, there is that. There is that.
Not that my girls ever fight.
Yeah, right.
All right, thank you. Any other items?
No?
All right, if not, we will adjourn. Our next meeting is Thursday, April 4th at 8:15. Thank you.